Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to be looking today at the Greek manuscripts and Hebrew too that underlie the major versions of the Bible before 1881, primarily, except the Vulgate. But are they based on weak Greek manuscript evidence? Now, I said Greek. It's an assumption that most of the New Testament was written in Greek, if not all of it. It's an assumption. There's some people that would argue various things, various books of the Bible, maybe Romans and Latin, especially Matthew and Hebrew and or Aramaic, and possibly some others. You have Galatians, the writings of Peter, that say they're written to regions. And we know, like in the book of Acts, Lycaonia, speech of Lycaonians, that there were certain dialects in those regions. So it may have been a multiplicity of languages in the original, like they may have written in Greek and other languages as well. But be that as it may, let's just take the general assumption that it's in Greek. We have to say then, with the known fact that from the early church, that everywhere the gospel went, it was immediately translated into the language of the people. So according to many, it was translated in over 500 languages in the first 5 centuries of the church, that none of those languages would mean anything at all. Because here's the deal, we don't have the original autographs of the Greek or the Hebrew. To our knowledge, we don't anyhow. People would make an argument at least over sorting maybe scraps or portions, but we don't have the originals. So somebody may have corrupted the Greek, but translated, let's say, in Latin or Syriac or Aramaic perfectly, and so that reading would actually be better than a corrupted Greek manuscript, since we don't have the originals. So let's take a look at this. We're in TexasReceptusBibles.com. They've been helping us out here, unbeknownst to them, last few morning videos. We do have some evening videos as well. Also invite you to go to Biblical Archaeology Today with Steve Waldron on a podcast, Spotify. So let's just take a look at what it says. Are some Textus Receptus readings based on weak Greek manuscripts? So this is an article on their wonderful website, which I recommend heartily. Although most Textus Receptus readings are supported by the majority of manuscripts, there are some readings that are supported by weak manuscript evidence today. We must remember, however, that the state of evidence today is not the same as when the Textus Receptus was being edited or passed out. Textus Receptus was first edited in the early 16th century. Soon after that, the Counter-Reformation and the European Wars of Religion broke out. By the way, God willing, I do have a video coming out on all the manuscripts. I say all. A look at a lot of the manuscripts that have been destroyed. The libraries have been destroyed from the time of Erasmus until now. That he had manuscript evidence that we don't have access to right now. And we've already looked at some of the horrible persecutions of the early church and how the command went out, let's say in the Roman Empire, to destroy all the manuscripts, but we know the Roman Empire wasn't alone in that either. So a lot of manuscripts through the years, even intramural, that sometimes maybe the institutional church didn't like a particular group of Christians that maybe didn't believe exactly the way the institutional church did. They would burn their Bibles. This even happened in America. Somebody wrote a book. Was it Dowling, I think it is? I read the whole book from like 1849. It was a big book that Roman Catholics were burning Bibles in the streets in New York, stuff like that. So we must remember, however, the state of evidence today is not the same as when the Textus Receptus being edited. The term edited probably could be used as a different word, maybe collected or sorted out kind of thing. Soon after that, which we won't argue about that sorted out, the Counter-Reformation European Wars, religion broke out, which resulted in destruction of Protestant and Catholic properties, especially the 30 Years' War, including churches and libraries, and especially in Poland as well. It is obvious that countless manuscripts and books were destroyed during this turbulent era of history. So the Textus Receptus preceded the most turbulent era in religious history. And there's some great quotes. In case in point is effort to save Codex Bezae, named after Bezae, who was like Calvin's successor. A New Testament codex or book dating to the 5th century, the 400s. Bezae consulted this codex to edit his editions of the Textus Receptus. This codex managed to flee from the wars of religion on the continent of Europe. The Wikipedia article on on Codex Bezae states, and we all know Wikipedia, good, bad, ugly, not so ugly. During the upheavals of the wars of religion in the 16th century, the 1500s, when textual analysis had a new urgency among the Reformation's Protestants, paper pope of the Protestants, like I reviewed a book here about not by Scripture alone, and the Catholic Church was very open about that. They wrote that book, the Catholic did. The manuscript was taken from Lyon in 1562 and delivered to the Protestant scholar Theodore Bezae, friend and successor of Calvin, who gave it to the University of Cambridge in the Comparative Security of England in 1581, which accounts for its double name. I think it's Cantabringius as well. Codex Bezae just so happened to survive to this day because somebody cared enough to remove it from the continent. But not all manuscripts managed to escape the path of destruction in Europe. Knowing that countless books and manuscripts were certainly destroyed during this turbulent period in history, it would be presumptuous for us in modern times to take the absence of evidence for any Textus Receptus reading and definitively declare it as evidence of absence. Europe has been ravaged many times since the 16th century. The manuscript evidence of modern textual critics are mere scraps and debris compared to what must have existed prior to the Counter-Reformation, religious wars, Napoleonic wars, 2 world wars, Islam, communism in the East, where many of the Byzantine manuscripts were kept. The idea that evidence keeps increasing with time is actually a liberal idea of linear progression that's not based on the evidence of history. It's very important. People say, okay, we've got this number of manuscripts, and we keep finding little scraps every few years to add to it, Not true. Tons of manuscripts been destroyed over the centuries. So again, what a lot of the Reformation scholars had access to, we would not have access to them today because they've been destroyed. There are indeed areas of evidence which have seen an increase, such as early papyri from Egypt. Not a lot of those, actually. However, with the increase of early Egyptian evidence with a corresponding loss of potentially early European evidence, early Western and Byzantine manuscripts possessed by Protestants during the wars of religion, there's now a sharp inequity between Byzantine and Alexandrian witnesses. Any critical evaluation of the Textus Receptus in modern times is anachronistic. The integrity of a work must be judged while the same resources used for the work are still in existence, not 300 years after the creation of the work. For example, the Johannine comma, 1 John 5:7, is Greek. In Greek is a late minority reading in modern times. However, Stephanus appeared, and it's very important, to have several manuscripts which contain the Johannine comma. John Gill writes, out of 16 ancient copies of Robert Stevens, 9 of them had it. And it says, for further reading, go to the Johannine comma, which I've done at least 9 different videos on 1 John 5:7 if you want to watch them. And we have seen people, doctors, converted, like theology, because they're just like, yeah, the evidence is overwhelming. And so it's like people say, well, it's not in any Greek manuscripts for the 10th century. I'm like, well, how many Greek manuscripts contained 1 John before the 10th century? And they're like, 5,000? No. Not 5,000. It's like 19 or something like that. And so I used to know that. This was many years ago. I knew the number exactly. Maybe it's up to 26 now, but it's very small. So you're talking about a very little bit, but then you're talking about a lot of other witnesses in lectionaries, in the Vulgate, in other non-Greek translations that have it before the 10th century. So how did that get there? And why does the Greek demand it be there from the Greek language? Yeah, even Codex Vaticanus has diacritical marks there saying there's another reading to this if Vaticanus is indeed from 350 AD or so. So we're going to stop there and, God willing, pick up tomorrow with the value of non-Greek witnesses. And just take a look at that. So God bless you. And God has preserved his word. It's not being found in scraps of paper and trying to be rebuilt. It was active around the world that God preserved. And it's in Textus Receptus, and basically almost all Bible translations before 1881. So God bless you. Talk with you later. Bye-bye.